Beat movement refers to a set of literary, political, and social attitudes principally associated with certain American writers and artists during the 1950s. They had a contempt for convention, meaning anything solid, Christianity, work ethic, capitalism, loving God, loving your neighbor. They had a contempt for it, hated it. The literature of the movement celebrated stylistic freedom. Slavery is always masked in freedom. Improvisation, spontaneity. If it feels good, just do it. Its influences and themes, listen, included jazz. This is pre-rock and roll, but rock and roll is right around the corner in the 60s. This group gave birth to the hippies, the beatniks. Reverence for all living things. Not so much about human beings. All living things, you say, not so much reverence. In fact, the animal kingdom, there was more reverence with these Asian religions for them than there were for each other, for human beings. Guess what else? Here comes the beatniks. Jazz, mystical Asian religions, there's your Jainism, drugs, well, who would have thought, and sexuality. Breed anything and everybody. Love the animal world, but that doesn't get in the way of you got the jive going and getting high and getting laid. That continued on unabated. Morphed out into the hippie movement, and they called it the sexual revolution. You say, the seeds are being planted, but here's the bad news. The movement did capture a generation's dissatisfaction with what it saw as the dull conformity and false values of square society. The seeds that were sown back there in the 1950s, they're still going to the streets with the signs over their head. A woman has the right to choose to kill her baby, but don't you hurt a little dog, and don't you hurt a little cat, because, you know, if someone sees you cutting baby little puppies out of a dog, that's cruelty to animals. You should not do that. It's okay with humans, but not with animals. It set the stage, the beat movement, for the radical protest of the 1960s. And lo and behold, right underneath them is Beatles. Became the most popular group in rock music history, the Beatles. Guess what the Beatles did in between songs? They went over to India and they got them a genuine Indian guru. Guess what the genuine Indian guru told them? You don't want to hurt a little ant, a little bug, a little animal. And since we can't even hoe our garden because we would hurt the little creatures, we're going to sit under a tree, we're going to have plenty of herb, and we're just going to meditate. And we're going to scrounge to just get a little food in us. The Apostle Paul, when they went out in the first century, Jainism started, a form of Hinduism, 6 centuries before Jesus came. Jesus enters a world and died for their sins too. All this harsh treatment of the body, they said, look at me. I won't hurt anything. I'm a non-violent person. I'm punishing my body because it's evil and sinful. And I'm not going to hurt any little animal. The beatnik said, that's cool. And the Beatles said, let's go sit down and get some counsel from one of these dudes. We can all sit around and smoke herb and talk it over about the way we ought to be. So the Apostle Paul mentions this particular group
Since you died with Christ to the basic principle of this world, why, as though you still belong to it, do you submit to its rules? You got to remember, self-imposed asceticism, self-imposed rules on one's body. I won't eat this. I won't touch that. Don't. Here's the way he words it: do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. They have all these self-imposed rules on themselves, and people say, well, you know, those are really some good folks, because look how dedicated they are. I mean, you know, they deny themselves food, you know, they only eat with veggies. I mean, that really makes them look good, because I admire somebody who would do that. And they're non-violent people. They wouldn't hurt a little bug. Such regulations are all destined to perish with use, because they're based on human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom. Look how they're hurting. They must really be good, solid, faithful people. With their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, the giants were there even then in the first century. But they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. You say, was this an immoral bunch? What are you talking about? Were they immoral? Therefore, when you get to the animal world, and it doesn't bother you when human beings kill their own offspring, it doesn't bother you at all. You will march for that. You will chant and sing. We have to be able to kill our offspring. Well, they've killed about 60 million so far, and counting. 60 million murders. If a human being shoots other human beings, it's a gun problem. If a human being shoots a bird or an animal, he's the problem. And at the same time, the people dictating the policy are slaughtering each other at about 1 million human beings a year. They're the ones that are instructing us when it comes to the animal world. I wouldn't pay any attention to them. The animal world, fish and all that are out in the oceans and the seas and the woods, they were given to us for a food supply, for their fur, for sustenance. God gave them to us. Take advantage of them.